one, y'all. And another edition of Where in the World is Keeping We're Going? Where in the world is Keeping We're Going? Hey, where in the world is Keeping We're Going? Where in the world is Keeping We're Going? Where?
Where are we going?
That was one of the most fun we've ever done on that intro. The rasp really came in handy in that moment. It was very fun.
Yeah, you had a deep voice like Joy Chapman.
Oh my gosh, our deep voice queen. I loved when you reposted that clip, by the way. That was so fun. Joy, we love you. Where in the world are we going? We're heading over to London.
Oh boy, here we go.
My accents are always spot on.
We need to get you a dialect coach.
I know, truly. Thank God I'm not an actor. They would just be like, listen, like your acting was actually okay, but your accent was so bad we have to fire you. Like you're out. And it's even worse because the drummer of my band is English, and so like I hear it often.
Oh God,
and you'd think I would have
you have a constant reference. No,
no, never.
No.
Sorry, Carl. Okay, we're headed over to England. Hello, good sir. And we are going to the town of Knaresborough in North Yorkshire, England.
Cool.
It is known for being this riverside, lovely little town. It is next to the River Nid, has lots of little shops and restaurants and sights to see going along the water, some amazing markets. Like it just
sounds cute.
Obviously a lot of history, as a lot of places, but adorable. Also home to a place called Mother Shipton'S Cave.
Whoa.
Which I absolutely want to visit.
That's gotta be a witch, right? Mother Shipton?
Mother Shipton was a witch. Yeah. And a prophetess, which we love talking about prophecies, and we just did on our last episode, so it felt very appropriate. So first, I just want to talk about the attraction before I get into the really fun history. Mother Shipton's Cave is England's oldest tourist attraction. Like this is not just in Knaresborough, not just in like North Yorkshire, all of England.
And
it is
England
the oldest
is
attraction.
Old as fuck.
But like it has been bringing people in for so long because the word got out back in the day before, we had the interwebs and even newspapers, I'm pretty sure. People have been visiting since 1630. And the area is gorgeous. Like nowadays it's like this beautifully landscaped park with little tourist signs and markers, and you can bring your kids. There's like a little cave pirate ship playground that you can go on, and they've made it a whole thing, but it was gorgeous on its own. There's a beautiful cave. It is Mother Shipton's Cave, and there is also a petrifying water well and this huge petrified water well wall next to it that is in the shape of a skull. So it's phenomenal.
What?
It's just like this beautiful landform that you can go visit and has now been made into a park.
Love it.
Why did my notes just have a heart attack? Okay, so the cave. You first get there and you go to the cave, which the general story that they give you is that in 1488, a baby was born in this cave known as Ursula Santail. And she became known eventually as Mother Shipton. After a few years living in the cave with her mother, she eventually was brought back into town by another family and then returned to the cave later in life to be an old witch.
Be an old hag.
And she had magical powers. She had a lot of prophecies that were known to come true, which we will get to later. And it is no amazing underground cave network. Like it is just this big cave, but it is a beautiful cave and you can go in there. But the really cool thing is next to it, there is a petrifying well. Again, England's oldest visitor attraction, first recorded by the king in 1538, but then started having visitors as early as 1630, like once the word got out. But kings have talked about it before, saying this is a magical water well.
Okay.
And it is because everyday objects can be put in the water and turned to stone. So the same way that like a stalagmite, like cave rock could form, but those can take like several years, things can enter this water and form in 3 to 5 months. Some objects even as soon as like just before 3 months, but the example they use is you can take a teddy bear put it in, and in 3 to 5 months it will turn to stone, which, like, for that
What?
object to turn that quickly is pretty crazy. So it feels like magical water. And nowadays the museum attached to the park has stone teddy bears that you can take home, and it has lots of other objects as well, and even objects that celebrities have brought over the years that now are just sitting in cases that you can go look at, which is super fun. And so for centuries, people have believed that it was miraculous healing water. The early 1600s samples of water were examined by a physician, and his report was that this was a miracle cure for any flux in the body. So people are,
Oh boy.
flocking to get there and use it.
I feel like maybe it's not safe to consume.
To
If you were
consume
to
it if
ask
it's
me,
turning things to
yeah.
stone.
If you were to ask me just like my opinion right off the bat, don't drink this
Mhm.
water. Seems bad.
I would say don't drink it. Yes. And I think people still to this day would say that. But over the years, that was learned that no, don't put it in your body, but it's okay to touch it. If your hand is in there for 2 seconds, you're not turning to stone. But
Okay, fair.
so it's become a wishing well, which is now part of the attraction. You go, you put your hand in the water for a few seconds, make your wish, and then you take it out of the water, and then you shake your hands. They have to shake almost completely dry, or, like, stand there for as long as it takes for all those drippy drips to come off. Think of your wish again. So it's very much like witchy moment. You are willing it into
you're
the
meditating
universe.
on it
You
for
are setting
sure.
intention. You are meditating. And then once your hand is dry and you have thought about it, then you can walk away and your wish should come true. And that's
Cute.
kind of how it's evolved over the years of people just coming and being like, do I drink it? Do I take it home? Do I pour it over my entire body? Should I go in it for a bath? And now it has turned to this if you come as a
Touch it with your
tourist.
fingies. No more.
Yes. Just little fingies. And you can take home little bottles of it as well, not to consume, but just to have as
Just to
decor,
have.
the same way that you've brought me like soil from Salem, which I appreciate. It's just your little witchy wishing well water that you can bring home.
That's immediately what I thought of because I was like, isn't it funny that like we have just comparatively, we have these two different tourist attractions for witches. We have one where it's like a celebrated witch, and then we have one where it's like, remember when we murdered all of these people for no reason?
Isn't that fun? Come on over.
Come on in.
Come
Here's
on
some
in, everybody.
dirt from where they were hung.
Oh, I know. Well, and
Okay.
Mother Shipton is kind of like a half and half of those. Like, she was revered, and like people really believed in some of her prophecies, but then at the same time, like, she was absolutely persecuted and kicked out, and we're gonna get into that.
Great.
But so at the far end of the site, just to finish like this whole tourist attraction, you have the cave, then you have the petrifying well, and then there are these beech trees. They call it Beach Avenue because there are these very super straight growing beech trees that usually do not grow this way, like the stick straight way that they do, but it's because of the petrifying well and the cave, and there's also a gorge, that the trees grow this way. And they become so
Wow.
famous and like such fine trees that their details are held by the Forestry Commission as a source of breeding seed. So they have preservation orders on them, like no one can touch them. They are very special trees, and you get to walk through this magical forest. And you also get to see a couple of like king's estates like that were sold long ago, but they have some history to them. So if you want to go into some old ass houses, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I do.
And
Actually,
we sure do.
More than anything.
We love old ass buildings. So go into some very cool old historic buildings, and at the very end you have the museum and the petrified items donated by celebrities. And there's also a shoe left behind by Queen Mary when she visited in 1923 that is sitting in a case. And I was like, ooh, is it petrified? Like Googling, there was just like, no,
Just a shoe.
it was just a shoe, but isn't it cool? She left it and we have it. Like, all right. But hey, to each their own, and you might be excited.
And Lady Gaga left a hairbrush there once in 2012, and we also have that.
And we kept it.
Next
It's
to
not
Queen
petrified,
Mary's
but
shoe.
has a little blonde hair sticking out of it. So that is the attraction. It's cool and beautiful to see on its own. Obviously, the well is fascinating and feels very magical, even though it's really all from like the rock minerals being deposited into the water. It's a scientific thing
It's because
why
of
the
the
petrifying
witch.
is happening, but I'm going to go on record as saying it's magic. So I wanted to get into Mother Shipton a little bit.
Please.
Most people visit the cave and think the history is just that it was a local witch who lived in a cave, and like that's cool on its own, whatever. But as the legend goes, Mother Shipton's real name, as we said before, was Ursula Santail. She was the daughter of Agatha.
Agatha and Ursula. Wow, wow, wow.
Agatha and Ursula, I know. Agatha was a local girl who found herself pregnant but unmarried at the age of
Oh
15. And
boy.
you know that didn't go over well. And she refused to tell the identity of the father. Like, well, also what a real one could have thrown him under the bus, but actually, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble.
What year was this?
Ah!
Because I feel like having a pregnancy, happen at 18 is like, you old bitch.
No,
Wait
she was
until 18. Oh, 15.
She was
Just
15,
kidding.
so she
Just
was
kidding.
actually at like the proper
the
age.
prime age.
The prim and proper age. But because she was unmarried, it was like trash,
Yeah.
witch. And she didn't give up the father's name. She was like, listen, I'm strong, I'm independent. Like, here we go. I'm not going to tell you anything. I have no parents to support me, but let's do it. So she was, of course, shunned and banished from the village. She found shelter in a cave on the outskirts of Knaresborough by the bank of the River Nid and below the Knaresborough Castle. So already just sounds like, witchy moment. And then on a stormy night in late 1400s, so it was 1400s into 1500s, 1488, thunder banging, lightning crashing,
Oh my God.
the wind blowing, she gave birth to Ursula, the witchiest night it could have been. And shortly after her birth, the abbot of Beverly took an interest in Ursula, and he placed her with a local family and was like, you shouldn't be living out in a cave with that old witch. Like, why are you with Agatha? And her mother was sent to a convent where she unfortunately died just 2 years later. Very sad for Agatha. She was just trying to live her life in the cave, and it's like, hey, I was doing fine. So now Ursula is just living back in the town where she doesn't really want to be. And she was known to have a large, crooked nose with a bent back and bow legs. And so everybody made fun of her. She already lost her mother and then like has these physical ailments. I don't know, maybe because of being born in a cave with no one around to support.
Yeah.
But she was, even though she was kind of picked on for her looks and known as a strange and unusual child, she was very bright and had an intelligence that kind of blew everyone away, which we love that. Prove everybody wrong. And she only attended school for a short time, but then the taunting got so bad that Ursula eventually kind of got driven away, and she started to hang out in the woods near the cave where her mother gave birth.
As one does.
She was like, I'm just going to be off the beaten path. And eventually, she didn't even know about the cave because she was so young when she was brought into town, but just naturally, the cave kind of called to her. So over her life, she eventually found her way all the way back to the cave, and she preferred this solitude. So even though she was still going into town every now and then, I know, she was like, I am going to be an old witch out here in the cave. But in her visits to town, she did briefly meet a man and then marry him. His name was Tobias Shipton. That is where the name Shipton comes from. Some say she had bewitched him because she was way too hideous for him, and he was this handsome nobleman.
Damn. This girl just had like a crooked nose. Like
I know,
I guarantee.
And her legs they were a little bow-legged.
Crooked nose and a little bit of a limp, and they were like, she's so hideous. No man could ever enjoy her.
I know. Like, she wasn't covered in warts. Like, what do you want?
Jesus.
Like, people have crooked
noses. She needs
noses.
a nose job. Literally, Blake Lively needed a nose job too, okay?
That is true. So, apparently this hideous beast somehow got the man, but it could only have been by her witchy powers. But sadly, their life together was short. He died 2 years after their marriage, and she again was just like, nope, I'm done with this. I'm retreating to the cave. And she became the oldest woman in the village living in that cave. But people did still come to see her, even though she was ostracized, and it was believed like she had either bewitched her husband or was the reason that he died at such a young age. So she just couldn't win. But people believed that there was something special about her because of her intelligence and because she would kind of speak in like poetic words. She would speak in rhymes, and some of the things that she was saying, people just were really latching onto. So they would come to her and be like, can you tell my fortune for a hot minute? Like, I feel like you might have some magical powers, especially because of this water that's existing over here. But um, she was known by the local community, like kind of just off to the side to like say some prophecies. So, some of the things that she was able to tell, sorry, I'm flipping back and forth once again, so I got to get to the prophecies. It started as small things. So, she would note like minor occurrences that would happen locally before her predictions got a lot larger, but it was one of the things was it was a prophecy that water would come over Ouse Bridge. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong to people in England. And it would reach a windmill that would be set on a tower. And you would hear this claim at first and be like, okay,
Okay.
lady, that's why you live out in the cave. But then when a water system was introduced, bringing water across the bridge in pipes that reached a windmill,
Ah.
suddenly people were like, wait, that
Wait a
bitch.
second.
She knew. Another one of her local prophecies included the destruction of Trinity Church, which would, as she said, fall in the night till the highest stone in the church be the lowest stone of the bridge. And not long after this statement, a terrible storm fell upon Yorkshire, destroying the steeple of the
Mm-hmm.
church and causing it to land on the bridge. So that is when people started to come around, and it even extended far enough to reach King Henry VIII. He is known as referencing Mother Shipton in a letter to the Duke of Norfolk, in which he mentions the Witch of York that he had to speak to. So through letters and different diary entries, that's kind of how
We're
we've
able to
learned
like
that,
track her
yeah,
history. Love
we've
it.
connected some things and that royal family was even getting into it. There was a famous writer who had a diary, Samuel Pepys. Pepys, I'm probably saying it wrong again. His account of the Great Pepys. His account of the Great Fire of London includes details of hearing the royal family whispering about Mother Shipton's predictions of such an
Whoa,
event and
whoa,
saying
whoa.
that she knew this was coming. And so he was overhearing this and saying, like, okay. So her reputation was growing, but so too did like this belief in this, in all these prophecies. So people were
Yeah.
coming to her from all over. And in one of her greatest prophecies, this is like one of the ones that's written about the most, um, she she was talking to King Henry VIII and kept telling him that his right hand man, Thomas Wolsey, was like the worst, basically. Like, I don't want to go through all of her like long ass poems because really it is a lot to read through them. Like, she was poetic, but like all of her prophecies are like
She was
novel.
poetic, but boy, was she rambling.
She just went on and it was like, get to the point.
Sometimes you can say 3 words instead of 30.
And we get it. Like, we get what you're trying to say.
Ursula,
But so it all
wrap
boils
it
down
up.
to like, your dude, like, he kind of sucks. And like, he
He's
was
gonna
lower
betray you.
class before he got to you. And like, he's going to stay lower class, is essentially what
Damn.
she was saying, which I kind of love the shade thrown. And so she was like, he should not be your chief advisor. Like, get this Wolsey guy out of here. And in a pamphlet dated in 1641, one of the earliest surviving records of her predictions, she was foreseeing Thomas Wolsey's fate at the time of his demise after he had fallen out of favor with King Henry VIII because he didn't secure the annulment to the marriage of Catherine of Aragon. So, like, big slip up. On a journey between London and York, he died from natural causes, and this was exactly what Mother Shipton had said. She was like, listen, bro, you are going to die before you meet your destination. Again, that is the easiest way to say it in her long poem, that like, you want to go to York, but you won't make it. And he didn't, and he died. And that was like one of her biggest ones that people talked about. And it was like, do not mess with her. And there's other ones that are a little more like, a little more
Right.
vague, but of course, it's similar to kind of the other ones, even that we were talking
All
about
prophecies ever.
last week. We're like, every prophecy, the end of the world. Some people say you can decipher her poems to say she predicted the internet, all kinds of things. But either way, people were into it. People believed it. There are, historical records of it. And a lot of it is, I heard whispers, or, I saw this point in a letter. So do with it what you will. But we
Yeah,
love
believe
a
it or
witchy
not.
prophetess, outcast to the cave, but just living her magical life. Could it be because of the petrifying well? We don't know, but that is Mother Shipton, and you can go visit Knaresborough in North Yorkshire,
Damn.
England. Go check it out. There's a very like summarized version of her story on the website, and like all the fun that you can have there. Have a family affair, but we love a witch.
I love that. So what happened to her? She die?
She died in 1531,
So a little
but
bit
her
ago.
prophecies, yeah, just like a little bit ago, but her prophecies lived on. I mean, obviously, people were, finding accounts of it in the 1600s, like diaries written while she was alive, but then not found until later, or, letters not discovered until
Of
then, and then
people
things
talking about
coming,
her.
yeah, and then things were coming true in the late 1600s that were like, she was talking about that in the 1500s. So yeah, she died at like, too young of an age, but she was a witch living in a cave, and you never know what's going to happen out there. So.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think she had health insurance, so.
I don't think she was like seeing anyone on the regular to take care of her ailments. So the petrifying well can only do so much, is what I'm
Love
saying.
her, love Ursula, love
But
the
we love her.
petrifying well. Didn't know petrifying wells existed until this moment.
Me either, and I'm kind of obsessed with them, and I really want to visit it if we ever to keep it weird to London, England.